Hello everyone and welcome to our monthly MasterMine Users webinar. Rob Makalek will be presenting on how you can use MasterMine for your management of pending and history activities and including email messages. If you have any questions, please post them in the question dialog on GoToWebinar. So with that being said, take it away, Rob.
All right, thank you very much, Carnegie, and welcome everybody back for our monthly end users session. There's a lot of people signed up for today's session. I'm guessing that it's a fairly hot topic, and which is of course why we chose it for you this month. By the way, one of the things that we want to do is encourage you to let us know what topics you will find particularly useful in working with MasterMine. As you get toward the end of the year here, you're probably finding that there are more and more situations where you need to or want to manage your goldmine data in some sensible way, or to use that data. You may not be trying to change the data, you may be, but to use the data in some useful thing, for example, for budgeting for next year, for assessing how well your sales reps did, not just in terms of how many dollars they brought in the door, but what they actually accomplished. And as you're looking at end of year bonuses, or considering salary changes for next year, a lot of what you can know for a fact about what people have done in your company is what's in goldmine, but only if you are using the information there in some useful and sensible way. So without too much sermonizing on that, just want to say, as you get to the end of the year and start to make use of that data, you probably have some questions coming up that you want to get some answers to about how to do certain things with MasterMine. Give us a call or suggest that we include that kind of whatever that activity is in an end user webinar. That of course is the webinars are free, and for the most part, simple questions about what you want to do in MasterMine are also free. So do send those in to us. That's in a way that helps us both to give you pertinent topics for the end user meeting, but it also sometimes suggests even new features or new ways that we can set people up to work with MasterMine. So today's topic, managing pending and history data. So this is a very interesting topic for people for various reasons, not the least of which is that pending and history is certainly, in my mind, one of the best aspects of goldmine is the flow of information, or the flow of activity through your goldmine from pending into history, or sometimes just straight into history, and what that actually means for how you track the activity in your company. If you're using it well, it informs you about both what you are doing as well as what, let's say, the people that you manage are doing in goldmine. It informs you and gives you the ability to actually manage people through their activity. Now, most organizations that use goldmine, I'm actually, I'll broaden it, most organizations that use CRM don't track every single move that every person makes. And that's not really the expectation, but something in that direction is expected, which is that you will that there are key activities in your company, whether it's the sales track, that is to say the the set of stages that a prospective salesperson goes through to get from cold call to an actual sale. There should be something like that, something methodical that people track through goldmine that typically is tracked in time, therefore pending in history. And if you are tracking that across that time, that is a key way of managing your people and your business. I won't harp on that too much because you showed up for this webinar today. Presumably you have some notion of the value of pending in history. Let's go ahead to our agenda here. So the agenda today is, I'm going to start, as I usually do, I try to start sort of simple and then get to the more complex stuff toward the end. Or the more complex or the more technical stuff at the end. So what we're going to start with is really sort of basic pending and history reports, creating reports out of MasterMine, and hopefully most of the people here on the meeting have either created a report in the past, a pending or history report, or had one created for you, and maybe you weren't all that clear about how that got done. I'll actually run through creating really one report that we will use for the remainder of the first half of this presentation. What I want to talk about is both, of course, seeing what you've got in pending and history, but also managing it. We'll talk about updating. We'll also talk about the possibility of deleting pending and history. A lot of people are not aware that a lot of that stuff, I'm going to call it junk. It isn't necessarily always junk. Sometimes it's just a lot of stuff that's in your history doesn't have to remain there. It doesn't have to be there forever. You can archive it off. You can delete it using Updater. You can manage various users' calendars directly by dealing with both the pending and the history, the information that's on the pending and the history tab, including deleting things off of there. A lot of people are not aware. Then we'll get into the special case of email messages, which tend to be, especially if you're using the Goldmine email, but even if you're using Outlook and integrating with Goldmine email, over time, email is one of those things that you don't have any great control over. You can have all the the internal policies as far as pending and history are concerned, but you can never you never know what emails people are going to receive and how those are going to build up and where they're going to kind of pool in your Goldmine database and potentially kind of bog down your system. So it's a management issue. It's a Goldmine management issue as well as a personal workflow management issue. We'll talk about email messages and how those relate to pending and history. We will also get into the inbox reporting, and then at the end, I'll show you some great new stuff that's coming with version 7.1 that will actually allow you to complete pending emails, actually move them over from the inbox into history, as well as we'll sort of build on what we talked about earlier for that, and then of course deleting filed emails, which is as I say, a new feature, not something that you have out there currently, but which we hope to have here before the end of the year. Another good reason to keep current on your MasterMine maintenance, because this is one of those really great Goldmine management tools that shows up in MasterMine. Okay, so with that, I'm going to switch over and we're going to talk a little bit about pending and history reports. And landed in the right spot even. Great. So this, of course, is our famous Goldmine demo database here. And we're going to just jump right in and create a new MasterMine report. I won't launch an existing one. I'll go ahead and run through the create dialog here. To remind those of you who are more share users rather than create users, you probably know that you have within your organization, if it's a typical MasterMine using organization, you have a handful of people who create original reports and then a larger number of users that have reports shared to them. MasterMine makes it, of course, very easy from inside of the report to share it from just by hitting a button in the Excel ribbon to share it to other Goldmine users. So as a share user, you probably don't normally see this create dialog, but I'm going to go ahead and run through this anyway for those who are. And so the key thing here, of course, is choosing the right area of Goldmine that you're going to report from. Probably, without too much instruction, you know that you can run reports on pending activities by checking pending. Because these are both checkboxes here, it's pretty important to note that with MasterMine, unlike in just about any other way that you might wind up working with your Goldmine data, you can do reporting across both pending and history. Now, in the report itself, a field passes through called pending or history that actually allows you to, within the report, select in the moment, okay, I only want to see the pending stuff, or in the moment, I only want to see the history stuff. You still are able to do that, but reporting across the two of them together is sometimes a very valuable exercise, in part because, just to take a fairly common example, a sales manager might want to see, what is the calendar of activity that a particular sales rep has scheduled to do and that they've completed. Goldmine's own built-in calendar actually gives you sort of a graphical view of that on a month-by-month basis, although not really a larger one. This is kind of an extension of that, because what it means is that if you organize it in a clever way, you can actually see the flow of activity that a sales rep is doing, and you can tell pretty easily, are they taking, in effect, the mass of leads that are available to them and working them? Is the activity, in other words, is there a steady flow of activity that takes a bunch of scheduled calls, scheduled appointments, whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis, and is it passing through, as the days go by, is it sort of passing through this bottleneck of whatever day you're on and becoming on the history side a reasonable set of completed activities? That is what gives you, I hope that kind of gives you a visual of how, with a sensibly organized pending and history report, you can actually manage a person's activity through what they are supposed to put into Goldmine. Now, some of you out there are shaking your heads and saying, well, no, they'll never put that information into Goldmine. Well, that's part of the job, really. If you're a salesperson, your job is to accomplish a certain amount of stuff every day. Of course, your job is also to bring in a certain number of dollars by the end of the month, typically, or by the end of the quarter, whatever it is. But if you're not doing that, and not everybody is doing that, especially not doing it in spades, then it comes back to the company, the manager, somebody within the organization, to figure out how can we help you do your job better. It's not just to beat you with a stick. It's to help you figure out how can you do your job better by having a smooth workflow that gets you through the leads that you are supposed to cover in your territory. Okay, enough preaching about that. Let's talk about the sort of technical of creating a pending history report. So for the purposes of the report I'm going to do here, as soon as I choose activities as the area that I'm going to report on, of course, the list of possible activities over here changes to show us the types of activities that Goldmine tracks. I hope the microphone went off before I sneezed there. So what we'll do is I'm going to create a report here for certain types of activities in Goldmine. I'll choose calls and appointments. By choosing calls and appointments, of course, that means I'm going to be looking at this kind of day-to-day activity that is recorded and managed through Goldmine. Now, note that down here in the field window, the fields that we're showing start with PH, meaning pending in history. So normally you see a table designator here, but of course there is no single table that has both pending and history on it. So for MasterMine purposes, we tell you both. Having that PH in there in general and the colors of how it's presented should give you an at-a-glance understanding of what it is that you're looking at in your report. Now, normally, if you were running this report in your own database, you would choose a starting date. I'm going to go ahead because this is a small demo database. I'm just going to take all the data that's in here. But you would choose a starting date so that your reports, cover a certain reasonable amount of time. Now, if this was going to, and by the way, if what you were trying to do is do a report whose purpose is to delete information, to cull unneeded history off of your history tabs, which I'll get to here in a few moments, then of course your starting date, you're going to want your starting date to be much earlier, probably 1/1/1989, the very earliest date that you have in there, so that you can scrape out the bottom of the barrel of the old history. For these purposes, I'm just going to call this workflow. We'll call the report workflow. Note also, before I hit the finish button, another option is to hit templates and choose among the many MasterMine templates that are in here, including there's a number of templates for pending and history activities, including a couple of nice ones in the latest, in the version 7 that came out about a year ago, and I hope you're getting good usage out of those. If you're not familiar with those, hit use template, and as you go over the items that are in the window, it'll tell you what those reports do. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this report here. And so, of course, my report is not going to look like the report that runs on your side because I've got a whole different set of data. I've got a different set of data, but of course it's structured probably fairly similar to the way yours is. The default layout for our workflow report, for our pending and history report really that I named workflow, is to show just the current year. In other words, to take the on date, the date when the item was either scheduled to happen or the item actually did happen. Take the on date, group it by year, month, and day, and narrow it down in the default layout here to just the current year, 2013. I'm actually going to open this up to show all of what we have in here because I'm interested in to start with a little bit broader or a little bit larger set of information. Now, of course, we're breaking it out by the user ID, who is the person who is either scheduled to do the pending activity or who actually completed the history activity. And I sort of emphasize this stuff because a lot of times people don't realize user ID in the individual history or pending item level is not necessarily the same as the account rep or the account manager or the whatever it is you have at the contact level. So let me just pull this over to the side, and I'm going to close MasterMine for the moment. So we have an account manager field here at the contact level, Nancy H. If Nancy had actually been the user who completed the item down here, then Nancy would be the name down here. In this case, Lori is the name on the actual item. Maybe this record has been moved from one sales rep to another in the meantime, and Nancy H. is now responsible for it. Who knows? So just to distinguish between those two. Now, the other thing that I also wanted to point out is the difference in colors on tables. Blue fields are at the contact level, so that's how we know account manager actually refers to the sales rep who's assigned to the record, because that's a contact level. The contact itself, or the account itself, is assigned to that account manager. The user ID is whoever did the activity. Could be a customer service person, could be any of a dozen people who interact with your prospects or customers. Okay, so that's kind of the simpler stuff on reporting. But I'm gonna drill down here in a little bit. And Carnegie, are you still on the call here with me, aren't you?
I'm here.
I'm going to ask you in a few minutes. Sorry?
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask Carnegie in a couple of minutes to share a story with you, to tell you a little bit about how they used pending in history at Carnegie's former employer. But I'm just sort of checking to see that you're there, Carnegie, and I'll give you the cue here in a couple of moments. So what I want to talk about here, though, before Carnegie does that, is dealing with the information at the individual history or pending activity level. So I'm going to do a drill down here, and note that what I'm going to do here is specifically I'm going to go into history records. So I'll look at Lori's history. And I just want to do this so that I get a certain kind of a set of data on my screen that is manageable for me. If you were choosing this, of course, you would choose the segment that's appropriate for you. And I always want to. You don't have to choose your segmentation in the pivot table. Oftentimes, when I see customer or see the actual end users of MasterMine out there using it, you might say, well, I want to see Lori's completed history, but I'm going to drill down on the grand total here. And then plan to do my drill down here. I'm going to expand this to the full screen here, and then plan to do my my selection inside of the list here. And that certainly is an option. You can do that. It's just, to my mind, it's an extra step, and it's a little bit more. It's less straightforward in my mind as far as your understanding what it is that you're looking at any given moment, because the only cue in here that you're filtering on only Lori is the fact that there's this little filter button here, or filter item there. Well, okay. So the next thing I want to talk about, actually, because really you can work with this filtering the way I did here, or filtering at the pivot table level, is changing data at the history level. So we talked about managing things is really kind of two levels. Or three levels. One is understanding what's there. Second is potentially changing the data that's already there, but leaving the records, in place. And the third level would be actually deleting history items. The first part of it, the reporting part of it up at the front, that's, understanding what's in there. To me, that's the reporting part. The second part, changing it, that's essentially a function usually of making your data either consistent, in other words, having it all follow the same set of rules, or it's correcting errors, which is another common thing that happens. Either way, what you want to do is focus in on the data that's here. And this is, Carnegie, this is where I'm going to pass on the information, or pass this on to you to talk about.
Okay. Well, I just basically wanted to share with you, everybody on the call, there are many different uses for your pending and history reports. At my former employer, we used it. We were a telemarketing company, and we really used it to how many calls are they completing in an hour, how many calls are they completing in a day. The drill down screen here, we'd often include the notes so we can look over the calls done during the day, see if there's areas that they can improve on, areas that we think they might have looked for additional contacts or whatnot. But we also use this at our pending activities, what they haven't gotten to, what they needed to get to, and we'd use it specifically using Updater. We'd go in there and change out the dates and maybe reassign them to other people. It was just a very quick, easy way to overview everybody's actions, what they're doing. It's a good indicator of happening in the company, and not just for your sales, but customer service, opportunities and whatnot. You're able to see all this information. And I will tell you guys, we would love to hear how you are using your own history and pending activities, your other reports, kind of sharing with others, maybe on our LinkedIn site. If you want to post your stories there, that would be wonderful. And I will hand it back over to Rob. Take it away, Rob.
Okay, thanks very much, Carnegie. All right. So I'm going to go on to actually, what I want to talk about is the next thing to do with special case of email messages. So as you're probably aware, a lot of people want to be able to do reporting from pending and history and include things like notes, which is not a big deal to include the notes from history. In fact, why don't I just go ahead and sort of demonstrate adding the notes, since that's something people are sometimes not aware of. So I created this report originally. I didn't include the notes from the actual history or pending items. You should probably be aware that on your Tools bar, there's an Add Field option there. And within that, you can add, where did it go? Oh, it's going to be called PH Notes because it's pending and history notes. And you can add it anywhere in the list. I'll put it a little farther down here and say OK. I hope you can all hear me pretty well. I think I'm told that Carnegie's voice was sort of breaking up for some users, but I hope that the information anyway got through. What I just did was add notes, and what I wanted to do is just sort of illustrate what happens with that. If I double-click on any of these, when I drill down, the notes will actually show up over here. Notes will show up. Forgot where I put it in the list. There it is, right there. That's the notes from the history. There's not a whole lot of notes in this particular one, but when you bring that in, when you bring in notes, you're given the option of adding any number of segments of notes, and as you enter them, they will, as you add notes segments, when you drill down here, they will get concatenated with the other ones. So you actually wind up with a complete single note on the drill down side of this report, but not on the pivot table side. So the reason I want to talk about notes was basically email messages are a special kind of notes. In Goldmine, the information that's in email is held separately from the actual history record itself. So if I go over here, I don't think I've actually got any emails in this demo database. I'm gonna use a different one to talk about it later. But if I just want to find one that had some notes here, maybe I'll just throw some into this one. So that's a notes. That's a notes on a call, and it shows up over here, and it shows up in the item itself over here. But what you may not realize is that email in Goldmine actually has a separate table that contains the bodies of emails. That's partly a security thing because you wouldn't want to have everybody's email just sort of wide open to everyone else to read. It's also just sort of technically that's what's required in order to be able to handle email as a kind of a special type of activity. So we are sometimes asked, can we do reporting for you that includes the notes for all the pending and the history? And the answer is yes. Can we do reporting that includes pending and history and the notes and the email messages that have passed through Goldmine? Can we do like a complete history that includes or that basically creates or that sort of makes the email that's in history, the filed email, look just the same as let's say a call record where the notes are the body of the email? The answer is also yes. We can do that for you. We do it manually separately, though. We don't make that automatically a part of MasterMine. We actually could have, but we decided that for security reasons it was not a good idea. So we make you jump through a couple of extra hoops working with us to do it. But the answer is yes, it is possible to do that and have that information show up right there in Excel. So that's just kind of by way of setting the stage for the additional things that I wanted to say about managing data. So, managing emails. Where I was starting to get here was the idea of both updating as well as potentially deleting pending and history items in Goldmine. So this is a list, obviously, of that I just created by making a drill down. I just double-clicked on, what I probably would do well to back up a little bit. Okay, so this is Paul's 173 history items. Now this is every history item that Paul's got under his name. Let's take an example where what I really want to do is affect the oldest history items in the database. And maybe the best way to find out what those oldest ones are. Actually, let me just use this as a moment here. It turns out there's only a couple of them in 2010. What I really want to know before I make any changes in my database is what do I actually have, of course, right? So this is a list of everybody by user ID, and I may or may not be interested in this at the user ID level. In other words, I may not. What I really want to do, if what I want to do is purge out, let's say, old history data, then I don't really care about the user ID unless I just only want to purge out the old user ID data for a particular user. What I really care about is, what is the date on these things? How old are they? So if I pull out user ID and pull in on year, that gives me a nice clean visual of, okay, so how old are these history items that are in here? I know that I can ignore the ones from the current year, but I'm probably interested in the oldest ones. Well, it turns out by looking at this, I now know my oldest ones are, I've only got 2 in 2010, but I've got a fair number in 2011. Those are probably ones I'm going to want to deal with. So I'll go back to that larger number. And by the way, let's sort of use this as another illustration here. The 2 that are under 2010, if all I want to do is delete those out of history, it's a pretty fast thing to double-click on those, go right to the Goldmine record, and by double-clicking on it, and there's my old thing from 2010. I could right-click, and if I've master rights in Goldmine, I can delete this history item, and it's gone. So that would be the sort of obvious non-updater way to clean out one or two records in history. But let's say I've got a whole bunch of data in there, 153 records in this case. So in this case, I really want to, now I'd probably do some more careful selection. I probably want to use activity code. Well, let's not delete actual times when you talk to somebody, but maybe there's ones that are coded in here to indicate that they were, cases of left a message. After a certain number of years, you don't care how many messages were left for somebody. You probably want to clear that stuff out of your history because it's just, it's more stuff than they want to read. So left message code in this demo database is not in the activity code field. It's in the result code field, which makes the most sense. So suppose we want to just delete all the left messages in 2011 from our database. Well, it would be a simple thing to, in this case, there's actually 3 different flavors of left message in here, left a first, second, and third message. So in this case, we could use the filtering mechanism right here to have it only show us the ones that we want to affect. And then from there, choose Updater. Always specify what table we will be deleting from. So you basically want, when you run Updater, of course, you want to take your fields from the top to the bottom to fill in, as you would with pretty much any form. Note that so it's history that we drilled down on. So it's history we're going to be deleting from. Of course, we don't want to be deleting at the moment old pending items. Although, again, sometimes that is what you want to do. Somebody leaves the company and they have a whole schedule of pending activities. You probably want to reassign those or delete them out of your system rather than just sort of leaving them there to litter the landscape. So once you choose history, it's going to default to PH records as the record ID field that links us up with the data that we're going to be updating or what we're going to be doing. And so you don't actually need a field because we're not going to be updating a field here. What we are going to be deleting is we're going to be deleting records from the cont.hist table in Goldmine. Now note that this kind of updates as you make your choice up at the top here. Let me do this. I'm going to back up a little bit and say, just to point this out, if I had chosen the pending table that we're going to be updating, or in this case deleting, then this item changes to indicate that that's the table. So it's there really to just reassure you that we're going to hit the correct table in Goldmine. And if you attempt, by the way, to delete using the contact one table, actually, in the newer version, it tells you that it won't do that. If you try to do it here, it will actually stop you just because you're not actually allowed to do deletes here from the contact one table. The reason for that is there's a lot of other stuff associated with every contact. There's history, there's pending, there's opportunities, there's any number of things in Goldmine that are associated with contact one records. You don't want to be using this to delete individual contact one records because all that other stuff will get left out there. And as I say, Updater will actually stop you before you actually delete any of those, and it'll just say, use a different method to delete those records out of Goldmine. If you want to do that, use our Goldmine group functionality instead to build a group of the ones that you want to delete, and then over on the Goldmine side, use the built-in Goldmine delete function and choose that group, and that will zap all those account records that you want to get out of your Goldmine database. So a little aside there just to point out, this will work with every table except contact one. You choose delete records from history. Now in this case, I've only got one of them selected before I hit my go button. So this is the only record that's going to get deleted out of there. I could have highlighted 10 of them, or I could have highlighted the entire column. And if I'd done 10, then 10 would be deleted. If I'd highlighted the entire column, then of course everyone in the column would be deleted. And go ahead and do this for real. Now, when I go and do this, I'm going to be deleting this one record. This is not retrievable. Unlike other undos in MasterMine, deleting records is not retrievable, or not undoable, so to speak. So that's something to bear in mind as we do this. So I've taken it off of test run. I'm going to hit OK. That target record has been deleted. So if I double click and go and look for a completed item on September 5th, 2011, under that record, I find no item here. So that's been deleted, and it can't be gotten back. We just deleted it from our demo database. So I hope that I have impressed upon you, A, that it's easy to do this, and that can be a good thing, but B, it's easy to do this, and that also can be a bad thing. So be careful when you go and delete data. Always, whenever you hit that delete button, MasterMine puts up a message that says, have you backed up your database? Well, if you're only deleting one record, no big deal, or 10 records or something like that. Unless it turns out to, if you're touching something that's sensitive, do a backup anyway. It's very easy to do, to take a SQL backup just in case. So that's deleting records. Now, the next thing that most commonly people start to ask about is, well, there's two things. Email messages. How can I use this to manage my email messages? And if I can delete my pending, that's great, but can I take pending messages and actually complete them over into history? And the answer is no. Actually, with Updater, you can't complete pending activities over into history. I haven't found any situations where I thought that wasn't more dangerous than it was useful. I can be convinced otherwise of that. I have not yet anyway added it to the Updater application. But if you do have a case where you want to be able to do that, let us know, and we would like to know what are the situations when that's actually called for. You've got pending activities, and you would just like to be able to complete them over into over into history. The one case that is the most common, though, where it does, I think, make a lot of sense, is email messages. So I'm going to switch over and talk about both inbox reporting and inbox management. And when I say switch over, I'm actually going to switch to a different database.
Before you do, Rob.
Yes.
Before you do, I have a question from Andrew. Can you turn the alarms off and on in pending activities with Updater?
Oh, great question. Excuse me. Yes, in fact you can, and that's actually a function that I really like in MasterMine a lot. You can. Let me just pull up Goldmine here, just to be clear so that everybody's clear what we're talking about. You know that scheduled activities in Goldmine can have an alarm turned on for them, and one of the kind of I don't know, sort of a thing that bugs me a lot among people using Goldmine, is that there is this great capability to ring an alarm when you really want Goldmine to remind you to do something. Problem is, very quickly those alarms can get out of control. It can get to where there are so many alarms ringing that at some point you just decide, you know what, I'm just going to turn off the alarm mechanism in Goldmine. In fact, you start to do it, and you do it so automatically every time you log into Goldmine, you just go over and you hit that turn off alarms button, that you essentially have eliminated that feature from Goldmine. A great way to recover that is to actually run the MasterMine report that gives you a report of alarms, and then use Updater to essentially to change that alarm flag. You can basically take the alarm flag that's in every pending activity and switch it from on to off, or selected ones from on to off, and essentially, excuse me, that restores the alarm capability. Just a moment here. Okay, hopefully I'm back. So yes, you can do that, and I don't think I need to illustrate it too closely, but I think it certainly bore telling the story. If you have any questions about how to do that, of course, contact us. But it's just simply a matter of finding the alarm flag field in the CAL database, or in the pending database, or pending table. So the next thing I want to talk about here is inbox. That little window, by the way, that just came up here, that's something in the new version 7 that'll go out to our once you've installed this, it will look for the latest version of MasterMine and see whether it's the same as the one that you're on, and if it's newer, it will actually ask you, do you want to update, as I'm sure you've done with other software. You'll be able to click a button and have it download the current build. We're kind of excited about having that so that people can be really current with their MasterMine. So the report that I want to open here, why do I not see it? Okay, I just recently had it open here. Maybe it's there and I'm just not seeing it. No, it's the inbox. Well, anyway, I'll just open it by there because I had it recently open. Oh goodness, someone has just moved it or removed it. Okay. All right, so I think what we'll do actually is go ahead and show you how to generate a new report on the inbox of Goldmine. As I mentioned, inbox is your Goldmine email center has its own inbox. I'll switch over here and just show you mine. And what I want to point out here is there are emails in here, but there are emails inside of Goldmine. And if you're using the Goldmine email manager or email mail client, then you know that there are you have the ability to create subfolders of your inbox. So you've got the inbox itself, and then you've got items inside. Sub inboxes within the inbox, and each of those might contain emails. And if you're using your Goldmine rules, then your incoming emails automatically can sort into those inboxes. It's a lot of very nice stuff that's built into Goldmine. Excuse me. I'm trying to drink enough water to keep talking here. So where am I going with all this? What I'm aiming to do here is I'm going to create a MasterMine report. Let me bring up that dialog again. What I'm going to do is create a report that specifically does a report of the Goldmine inbox. Now the inbox, of course, is only the pending messages in Goldmine. And it's just a toolbox. It's one of the many templates that are built into MasterMine. But what it will give you is what I think is a really powerful way to manage your Goldmine. Sorry, it came up on the other screen here. To manage your Goldmine email system. And why do you want to do that? You want to do that because potentially you might have thousands or hundreds of thousands of emails flooding into your Goldmine system, and at some point that's going to start to bog down your Goldmine. And one of the most common ways that we see people, complaining about their Goldmine is getting slow or, whatever, it's because there's a lot of email in there that's actually not being managed by the individuals very well. This is the default report of inboxes. When I say default, this is just, of course, the way it looks when you just run the template as is. Now you can include associated with this, each email, the email address that is associated with it, the other information that's in that email address, like subscribe and unsubscribe, or whether it's pending or whether it's a primary or secondary email address. There's a lot of different ways that you might want to be managing this inbox. I'm just going to be sort of talking about one idea about it. And so what I'm going to do here is take this and kind of clean up this. I always like to hide the unused filters at the start because I can always pull those back in when I need them. I can always pull them in from the right, I mean. I'm going to put the mail user at the top. So just so you understand, what I want to kind of indicate to you here is what you see here is each user's name and their inbox subfolders. So if I go to Rob, which is the one that I'm on over here, what you'll see is under Rob, there's this subfolder, that subfolder, and these will all agree basically with the subfolders that I have on the left-hand side that actually contain any emails. I have some that don't have any emails in them, so those don't show up. But the ones that actually have emails, those show up, and how many emails are in that box, and giving me, of course, the ability to, well, first to just assess, where is all of this stuff in our system? Who's got, way too many, excuse me, who's got way too many emails pooled in their inbox and is not following up on them. But you can also just sort of see how those relate to the contacts that they're working with as well. What I'm going to do is take this and just deal with it with just my own email inbox. So I'm going to choose Rob here, and so from here I have the ability to drill down and do all the usual things that I do with reports with my reports. So the ones that I am most interested in, or what I'm going to work with right here, are these ones that I have in this folder that I call 500 old. This subfolder was basically just a whole bunch of emails that were sitting in my pending that I kind of got beyond me. I just sort of moved them there so that they wouldn't be in my main inbox. As you can see, in the meantime, my main inbox has accrued a great deal more. If I double-click on this 431, this shows me the list, again, of all the emails that are out there. And from here, this is where potentially this gets to be a really helpful thing to be able to do. And that is where I was mentioning about the possibility of completing pending emails or deleting ones that are there. So I want to emphasize again also, the current build of MasterMine that you have of Updater doesn't do this, but within about a month or so, we should be able to release our new version 7.1 that will have this capability, and it's going to look like this. So I don't want to delete everything that's in there, but I might want to take a set of them, a set of emails, and I'm actually not going to change the database here. I just want to sort of show you how this is going to work. So with the new version of Updater, as you can see, it's a little bit different. There's this sort of colored background. I'm not quite sure how that's going to look in the long run. It might stay the same. And everything is on the front end here is pretty much just the same as what you're used to seeing, with the exception that we've added this additional special processing tab. Its purpose is for dealing with certain special situations. Like in this case, where what you want to do, let's say what you wanted to do was, delete email messages from the inbox or from history. You could actually just choose that button and hit OK, and that would be sufficient for it to actually create the settings so that the items that you have selected would be deleted. Or if we wanted to file email messages, I'll go ahead and say, OK, yes, I've backed up. Or this would be to file email messages from Goldmine's inbox into history. That's the other function, of course, that I was talking about. And when you file them, one of the options you have in Goldmine is to specify a result code, because you're actually moving something from. It's one of the options that you have in Goldmine when you file an email. In this case, but they're all going to have to be exactly the same value when you do this sort of mass filing of the emails. We chose AFL, which basically just means all file, I think. And when you say OK, the mail reference typically needs to be a target field for the update, but basically essentially when you go to do this, it would take these and move them from the inbox. It would remove them from your inbox and just put them under history. I don't think I actually need to make it happen and to kind of drive the point home. Okay, so so those two things actually wind up being in parallel here. The completing of the filing of pending emails and the deletion of ones from history. And really, there's not much to show you because essentially all you do is hit the button and hit OK, and then it goes out and deletes those from the database. Its purpose, of course, is not to manage 5 records at a time, but really to go in and be able to take hundreds or even thousands of sort of useless emails. You might be clearing out old marketing emails that you sent out, or clearing out which will tend to have gathered in their thousands in your database, or you might be clearing out basically routine emails that really don't matter to you anymore because they happened 5-10 years ago. I will leave it to your own vision and imagination to figure out when would be the right times or what kinds of things you want to clear out of your database. So with that actually covers the substance of what I wanted to talk about today. I apologize for my voice and my just have this cold coming on just today, but I hope that I was able to be fairly clear. I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions. There is always the ability, by the way, to send questions to us afterwards. Carnegie, if you've had your eye on the questions there, I'd be happy to if there's anything that's of broad interest, I'd be happy to handle that now.
I don't see any at this point.
Okay.
I asked the question when it came up, unless you'd like to actually show how to change alarms, but we could do that.
I think it's actually fairly obvious. Maybe not. I think that I'm fairly pleased with what we've brought forward today. I hope that you found this interesting. Oh, I think what I'm going to do though is bring up our last slide here, which is we started last time with a no, why is the slide's not coming up here? I think maybe I just need to minimize this and that. There we go. So one of the things we started to do last time was to do a drawing from among the attendees for the end user webinar. Gives you some impetus to come and be here live with us and hopefully actively interact with us. It's always a little bit hard in webinars to have that live interaction. We're working on our techniques for doing that. So what we're going to do is give away a free 1-hour consultation of MasterMine experts who will either help you to create reports or help you to manage data using the MasterMine software that you have on hand there. And we're going to pick the lucky winner of this from the attendees who are still on this call at the end, namely right now. So Carnegie, I'm going to have you, as usual, go through the list and randomly choose a winner.
All right, let's have it. Our winner today looks like it is Nancy Kelleher.
Oh, lucky Nancy Kelleher. Okay, so Nancy, and then she's still on. So Nancy, give us a call and just schedule that free consultation. You've got a month to use it, so you've got until really till the end of December. Although I would appeal to hopefully have it be before Christmas rather than after. So congratulations, Nancy, and look forward to working with you, and I look forward to working with all of the rest of you, either in managing your pending and history activities or whatever it is that MasterMine can help you with in your Goldmine database. And thank you, Carnegie.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.